Despite ferocious bombardments, Iraq was now failing in its objectives, confirming it had exhausted its capacity to make further gains. With supply lines badly overstretched, partly the result of unclear war aims and strategy, the Iraqi leader Saddam Hussein announced a voluntary withdrawal from all captured territory. In the event, and just as in Kuwait more recently, the withdrawal was not complete. Ironically, Saddam Hussein was sanctioning retreat, the very maneuver for which he had already executed 3 generals. Iraq's aim of undermining Iran's Islamic Revolution had more than failed. Instead, successful Iranian resistance, then expulsion of the invaders, had cemented it. Khomeini's volunteers headed for the front, their martyrdom symbolized by the red waters of the bizarre fountain of blood in Tehran. With Iran gripped by religious fervor since 1978, they were ready for a high battle toll. But they lacked military skills, and their habit of congregating indecisively presented the ideal targets that ensured a high casualty rate. They also had a message for Western governments supporting Iraq with armaments.
These people here, these people who come here to fight, they just, they've left their families, they've left their houses. Just they want to come here just to fight the Iraqis. But your country is now helping Iraq, right? But why? You see these people? How old is he? How old is this guy? Must be 14 or something. But he's come here to fight. He's left his mother, he's left his father.
Just like the First World War, volunteer battalions were raised from particular towns, school friends encouraged to join together like the British PALS regiments. Their slaughter on the borders of Iraq hit individual communities especially hard, but they turned the tide as Iran took the initiative. More innovative than the Iraqis, the Iranians used frogmen to spearhead a succession of offensives aimed at Basra. They headed waterborne attacks, penetrating the Awa al-Hawazeh marshes to try to cut the Basra-Baghdad highway. Supported by fast boats, their mobility surprised Iraqi strategists who regarded the marshes as a watertight natural defense barrier. With floating pontoons, these tactics were as innovative as those used by the North Vietnamese against the Americans a decade earlier. Iraqi strength in heavy weapons was now a disadvantage in battles that at their peak involved 500,000 soldiers with 1 in 20 killed in action. Iraqi forces entrenched behind the deeply dug emplacements of the artificial Fish Lake east of Basra. Here, Iran's offensives were far more costly. On these flatlands dominated by heavily fortified Iraqi positions, Iranian human wave attacks without air cover provided ideal targets for Iraqi artillery. But often inflexible, the Iraqis were easily circumvented by Iranians moving south to another important success in this area, the capture of al-Rizaz Island and the Shat al-Arab. Here was another battlefield presenting images of the First World War, the winter conditions recalling the Battle of the Somme in 1916. Deeply dug trenches broken by strong points and ducts of rocket-propelled grenades. Iran, now under arms embargo, was already self-sufficient in such weapons production. The prospect of Basra being cut off eventually panicked Iraqi leaders into widespread use of chemical weapons. Iranian gas masks afforded little protection, and chemical weapons, more than any other Iraqi ordnance, were responsible for extensive Iranian battlefield casualties. Mustard gas and nerve agents were delivered by small, innocent-looking planes based near Baghdad. ITN's cameras were prevented from filming more of them. At first, the scale of its use surprised the Iranians, who were forbidden by Ayatollah Khomeini from following suit.
Supposed to be on a mission. We're supposed to head out that day, but then they waited until like 7:30, you know, about a half hour before step-off time, and said, "Oh, it's all canceled. It's too rough to go outside the wire." You know, it wasn't supposed to be there. Went to chow. That was it.
Shortly after 12, Doc Nelson and I went to the dining facility, the DFAC, for lunch. Doc got his chili cheese dog, and I got my first plate of roast beef.
Typically at the end of lunch, a lot of times what we would do is go back up to the line, get another meal, and have it wrapped. That way, if we were working in the aid station, we would have food there. We wouldn't have to make another trip, because people try to minimize their trips to the mess hall. Fortunately, I had to go to the bathroom, so we left. Went back down to the aid station, and not even a second after we got to the aid station, we heard the loudest, you know, explosion that any of us had ever heard.
Looked up and saw a flash, and I thought to myself, this isn't the white light they talk about when you're dying. And then, I don't know how long it was, but I had been thrown somewhere between 10, 20 feet from where I was seated.
Oh, I was wicked close. I was wicked close. I just got shot back, man. I got blown back. It just got black, and then it got white as a bastard. Just, whoa. I remember flying back, and I remember just smashing and crashing.
So we started hearing the radios light up that the mess hall had been hit, and we just grabbed our A bags and took off up to the mess hall. It was very dark in there. There was still smoke, and the one thing I do remember is the first couple steps that we stepped into the door. The floor was slick with whatever it was. If it was food or if it was blood, and it was carnage in there. You know, everybody was doing something. There were people yelling for help. There were people screaming. You know, there were people confused, not knowing what to do.
And I got into the 2.5-ton truck that we had, and I drove up to the DFAC. And then they started pulling people out. And some were dazed, some were walking, some were not walking.
Once I got up, my first thing was to go and try to find an aid box that Doc had put around the DFAC. And they were all being used, so I went about my job as a chaplain, administer to the wounded and the living.
When I got blown back, and first thing I did is you know, you do the 10 toes, 10 fingers and stuff. You know, it was like one of those. That was close. You know, one of those deals. Wow, that was close. And there was a kid over there that was he was like bouncing. I was trying to talk to him, and I seen him give up.
Next gentleman had multiple chest wounds. We ended up treating him, sealing off his chest wounds, and we took saran wrap on those big things that you used to be able to wrap your trays in, wrapped his chest with it. And
oh, I got hit right here in the thigh. It shattered my femur. It ripped through my pelvis. I had a hole big enough for a paper towel. The whole thing of it stuffed in there.
But I remember thinking about how lacking we were in security that somebody could be wired with explosives and walk right into our dining facility and blow themselves up. Because when that happens, you have to figure out where all your soldiers are and account for them, because we don't want to have any MIAs or anything like that. And then we got down to the smaller number of people, and nobody knew where they were. Nobody knew where Tom Dostie was. Nobody knew where Lynn Poulin was.
Went outside to the expecting area, started opening body bags, and lo and behold, they were there.
And then you experienced the emotion within the battalion, and you go from, you know, different emotions. You know, relief, it wasn't me, or and then I really feel bad, we lost one of our own. Then
after them saying Tommy's name, I don't remember anything until people started to get up to walk out of the chapel. And then I just sat there for a little bit and then went back down to my room. Because, I mean, Tommy would come over every night, just about, and talk to me, and then go back into his hooch. You know, he's like my little brother, and it just, I didn't know what to do. You know, so, I mean, I just sat in my room, didn't do much, just, I cried for a while. I think I cried myself to sleep that night.
you realize how fragile life is. You realize that you can do everything right and still come up very badly. Not because you usually don't have control over it. It's all about luck.
When I first got home, you know, I if you look out back, I got an 8-foot fence, and I would just go out to my meetings and I didn't associate. I lost all my friends. I have really no friends from when back then. I burnt bridges. I drew back and I just got my own thought, man.
Since then, you know, it's been up and down. You know, I mean, like I said, I got out of the Guard. I wasn't diagnosed with PTSD, but if you ask any of my family members, they say I should be. I don't sleep much. Still, I mean, it's been 10 years. You know, and I just, every little thing, I'm still jumpy to this day.
My wife noticed that there was a difference in me, as well as other people. Kind of withdrawn, wasn't as happy as I was. I really didn't care about being around a lot of people.
I go into a room, a crowded room, bang, I always do the exits. You know what I mean? I always know where the exits are.
I'll go into a building, Civic Center or something, and I'll walk in and I know where the exits are. I will know where the exits are and the fastest way to get back to my car.
For me, I'll take it to my grave with me. It'll never be gone. Anybody that thinks war is glorious is out to lunch. It's not. Not at all.
Every year, I remember it, every year. I don't mark the calendar, I don't need to. I know when the day is, and I always feel it, and I always remember. And I remember, you know, Lynn and Tommy.
You'll never be able to get over it. It's always going to be a part of your life in one way or another. And what you do with that, you know, can take you down many different avenues. Some people, it's really damaged their lives, as evidenced by, you know, people you've probably seen that, you know, marriages have been lost and, you know, they're really depressed and can't hold jobs and just having difficulty working their way back into society. Or other people take it and look at it as a new lease on life, an opportunity for you to be able to do the best you can.
I don't want the 21st of December to define me as a person. Will I ever forget it? No. Will I dance with the devil? I dance with him all the time. But you know what? I want to lead. I want to lead a couple times now. So You know what I mean? I don't want that to define my day, my life. Is that one day?
It's a tough mission because you can't necessarily see the enemy. The enemy always sees you, and you keep a very hard target so that when it is time for them to shoot at us, they can't get to us.
First UGL shot at us.
Our overall mission is to disrupt enemy operations.
We'll figure out if we take more contact, we may push to the enemy firing point.
My squad as a whole is very aggressive. It definitely
Uncover to the northwest.
It embodies the whole no better friend, no worse enemy. Because 1 second these Marines are, shaking hands, kissing babies, generally gaining good repertoire with the locals. But at the drop of a hat, these guys are aggressive as can be. They're running across fields, they're making those keyhole shots, they're doing everything that needs to be done in a split second. There's no transfer time, there's no, hey wait, let me get in my groove. It's always the second something pops off, these guys are there. They're always there, they're always ready. But as soon as it's over, they're back to normal.
I laid down in some human
We took in small arms fire, we returned fire, moved on the enemy. It is typical for this Taliban element that's out here right now.
All we end up doing is taking it back. We got room for one.
Took one detainee.
Roger.
He had tested positive for our gunpowder residue tests after we'd been shot at. He was also in the vicinity, so we knew that he was around that area. So we want to bring him in for further question.
You're not blindfolded until you get into the truck.
My Marines and I definitely have a very special bond. It started from the beginning. We work together, we play together, and all in all, we trust each other with our life. So we keep that bond. We get on each other's nerves a lot, but at the end of the day, we know that I'm there for them, and they're there for me. We're going to push down to another cordon, another compound's cordon off. If possible, 2 or 3 shooters in there right now. So we're throwing everyone up right now, taking DK with us.
Ain't no big deal. The locals just get irritated when we come around, obviously, because 1, we get shot at, and 2, we go through the compounds. Yep. Just another day in Op Box 10. Right there.